Hello everyone, Grub here, and welcome to another analysis video for MechAssault 1. This video will be discussing all of the mods that are currently available for Mech 1 and how they improve the game. To be clear, this isn't going to be a guide on how to install mods or how to set anything up. I'll leave other people to that, but this video will be more or less an introduction to those who are unfamiliar with the mods, who are wondering what the mods do and what mods are available for this game now. All of these mods I'll be mentioning today are done by Elite Heroes, who is an amazing person who really doesn't get enough credit if you ask me. He's spent so much time and effort reverse engineering this game and changing things and doing everything without having any dev tools or anything like that. It's really amazing the work that he's accomplished. This video is just as much an advertisement for him and his work as it is an actual introduction to mods. So I will be leaving a link to his Discord server where you can get links and tech support and everything else that you need for mods in this game in the description of this video, if you want to check anything, which I highly suggest that you do. Okay, so starting a little bit off topic here, let's talk about the vanilla DLC for MechAssault 1. Now, most people in the community already have the DLC installed, they're already very familiar with it, but I've come to realize that at least a few people have never seen the DLC and they don't know what it is and what comes in it. The DLC is pretty much prerequisite for the mods today, and there's pretty much no reason to not use it now. Nowadays, we use a modified XBE file to install this originally Xbox Live exclusive DLC long after the servers were shut down. If you're downloading this stuff today, I'd suggest you just get all of it. It's pretty much what everyone does now, and you'll have trouble connecting to people if you have just some of it. But what does this actually get you? Well, you have the Raven, the iconic Raven from Battletech. Corvus is a Raven derivative tailored specifically to objectives. Really, either you love it or you hate it. Hellbringer, not really that good in vanilla, but it comes into its own with the rebalance mod. But the Loki is really good in this game, so that's a good one. Demo Town, the best competitive map for Mech 1, definitely a must-have. Hell's Kitchen, another really good competitive map. Rock Solid, pretty decent for team games and for destruction, but this is also by far the best grinder map, if you ask a lot of people. Stone Cold, not as much of an icon as the other ones, but still really good. By the way, all the DLC that I've mentioned so far is compatible with Grinder by default. So for those who like Grinder, just the DLC will effectively triple the number of maps that you have, and you can use all the new mechs as well. So it vastly broadens your horizons when it comes to that. Then you have the objective game pack and the different maps that go along with that. All of these maps are really good maps, and they really are much more significant when or if you get multiplayer expanded, which I'll talk about in a bit. The base mod, as the name suggests, is the foundation on which all the other mods are based. It's a prerequisite for everything else. If you launch the mods as shown, you'll see the menu and the music changes. This is visual confirmation that the mods are running. The base mod itself is mostly just for technical stuff, but it has a few cool features of its own. You go into multiplayer. Even in standard multiplayer game modes, you can go beyond the normal team limit. Select all of the different colors and textures. This, in regular multiplayer, this doesn't really do a whole lot, as a lot of these other teams just default to red spawn, but it's still cool, especially in Grinder. I should also point out, it won't really show on this profile, but the Ragnarok and Ymir are unlocked by default. You don't need to have a player profile with the entire campaign played through all the way to have the Rag and Ymir unlocked. Going back to single player, firstly note this dev option to load levels. This allows you to load any mission even if you don't have a profile that has unlocked that.
Here's the score. The Icarus is...
This also comes with a few of the unused briefings and cut dialogue as shown here.
Captain, we have got a situation. A large enemy force is heading towards the Icarus. I want you to get in the Mad Cat and see what she can do. Foster, briefing boy, get in the Cougar. You earned it.
Yeah, baby!
Defend our LZ. Foster, stay close to the Icarus and out of the real mech warrior's way. Captain, try to keep the kid alive.
Starting with the single-player focused mods, we have Grinder Enhanced. Grinder Enhanced, to be clear, doesn't replace traditional Grinder. It just adds new maps with Grinder Enhanced enabled. Grinder Enhanced adds more AI to maps, both friendly and enemy. The enemy mechs will now spawn in different color factions and will fight each other as well as you and your friendlies. Your friendly AI will be replaced and upgraded to stronger mechs when they die, just like the enemies are. So it has this sort of revolving combat loop. Also added in this mode are the DLC mechs, and different colors of mechs, and a lot of variety that you don't see in base Grinder. While this mod is fun for all playstyles and all mech classes, I would say the people who will have the most fun and get the most benefit out of this are people who like to play the light mechs and the support mechs in this game. Mechs that go underappreciated in the base game, like the Vulture and the Corvus and the Raven. Remember, you have friendly mechs now, and because the enemy teams will tend to engage each other in combat, it really takes the pressure off of you and allows you to play a much more nuanced playstyle. Because you aren't continuously being chased down and engaged by every mech within about 85 kilometers, it allows you to actually play a supportive role or to be on the fringes of combat and taking pot shots, etc. You can get much more mileage out of these mechs that were never meant to stand on their own. And you can really have fun games with them without feeling like you're a one-man army like you have to in regular Grinder. Lastly, more of a novelty than useful, but still there nonetheless, you can play as different AI units. You can play as a helicopter, or a tank, or an infantryman, just to see what it's like. Just don't try to think that they're in any way effective, because trust me, they're not. Secondly, we have Infernal Difficulty mod for the campaign. The Infernal Difficulty mod is made for those who find the original campaign just a little bit too easy, even on Elite difficulty. If you load into the menu, you'll immediately see that the difficulty selection screen has changed. It is no longer green, regular, veteran, and elite. It is elite, hellish, insane, and infernal. The Infernal Difficulty mod adds extra AI, extra mechs, extra difficulty challenges in the original campaign to make it much harder. The AI of enemy mechs is much more aggressive, and the level-to-level challenges are a lot greater. Also, as an extra bonus, there's a few mechs that you wouldn't normally be able to use that are made available on certain missions, such as the Owens in Friends Indeed, the Hackman in Worst Day Sense, and the Hybrid Power Armor in Size Matters. Moving on to the multiplayer mods, I should briefly mention the 3 to 4 player split screen mod. It's not that interesting. It's good, it's just not that interesting because it does pretty much as the name implies. The multiplayer expanded mod works to broaden your playability options in multiplayer so it doesn't get repetitive, almost like the DLC does. Firstly, it makes almost all of the game type exclusive maps playable in all game modes. So whereas maps like Midtown Mayhem and Jotunheim were previously locked to objective games, now you can play them in regular destruction or team destruction. At the same time, he's taken several of the non-objective based maps like River City and made them compatible with objective game modes. Just this change, making all of the multiplayer maps compatible with game modes that they weren't originally compatible with, makes things so much more replayable, and it really helps keep things fresh in rotations on game nights and such. It's such a simple change, but it makes a lot of difference. He also adds a few maps of his own in this mod, such as District HQ, which is the special version of River City that we see in the campaign, and Arctic Arena, which is a frozen version of Colosseum. Lastly, and perhaps most ambitious of all, we have the MechAssault Rebalance mod, otherwise known as the Rebalance Patch or just Rebalance. This is a reworking of the entire MechAssault 1 sandbox, made to vary the combat experience by making the less viable mechs more viable and the dominant mechs a little less dominant. MechAssault 1 in vanilla is a lot like Battlefield. There's a lot of visual variety in mechs, and there's not very many outright bad mechs. Trust me, they're there, but they're very few. The real problem is that there's so many mechs that are just rendered redundant by other mechs that serve the same or very similar role, except better. And there's a few mechs that just blatantly stand above everything else in the sandbox, which leads to a rather narrow meta despite the number of chassis and variations in this game. This game really feels like it was built with more of a single-player progression in mind, where you start with light mechs, then you go to medium mechs, then you go to heavy mechs and assault mechs. It doesn't have that same balance that a regular MechWarrior game does, where every mech can have its role despite the tonnage difference. Even mechs in the same tonnage classes, though, can be all out of whack. And I'm not going to ramble about this. If you've played this game, you know what I mean. The Rebalance mod aims to correct that. It aims to level the playing field a bit and give you a lot more variety by making these underused mechs a lot more usable. That is a key thing to note, by the way. The philosophy that Big Talk and Elite Heroes took when they made this was, instead of making things slower and potentially miserable by nerfing the overused mechs, the intent is to bring the lighter mechs, the underused mechs, up to that level instead. There are very few nerfs in this mod, only the ones that were absolutely necessary. The vast majority of what you see here is buffs and additions to make things more powerful. It may seem to make everything overpowered when you first look at it, but it actually flows very well. It is faster paced and a lot more balanced. So what actually changes in this mod? Really, there's too much to list in a short segment like this. If you want, there's a text file in the place where you download the mod that shows you all the feature changes, but here's a short overview. Weapons have been tweaked to make some of them more viable. The original laser, the most useless weapon in MechAssault 1, is now more damaging. The pulse lasers and machine guns are now more accurate and more consistent at longer range. Autocannons and SRMs fire faster, things like that. Things to bring the weapons in line with the PPCs, the Gauss, and the Warhammers. Mech stats have been tweaked as well. Almost all the light mechs got a health boost in this mod, so you're not instantly being destroyed by a single stray weapon from a higher tier mech. All mechs have an ability of some type now, and a lot of the mechs actually got more weapons to more closely match what their loadout is supposed to be like, and to make them slightly more powerful. Like, for example, the Uziel and the Vulture now have 2 machine guns instead of just 1. Some of the mechs have even gotten major loadout revisions or even entirely new loadouts to make them stand in a role in a unique spot all of their own. Like the Raven has now gotten a flamer and 2 LRMs instead of just an SRM and a laser. With all of these changes, it would be unfair to say that the meta has been flipped on its head, but it's certainly been shaken up. Light mechs are not really to be taken all that lightly anymore. They can actually stand on their own now. Even mechs like the Uller. You're not going to be 1v1ing a Prometheus anytime soon, but it's certainly much more viable now. Mechs like the Vulture and the Hellbringer can really come into their own, and teams are a lot less dependent on the Catapult and the Mad Cat for long-range support. And in the Assault mech class even, you have the Ymir and the Atlas, which can actually stand with the Prometheus and the Ragnarok now. The overarching theme of this mod is that the power curve is a lot flatter, and you can really take much greater concessions in your choice of mechs because you're not going to end up with something that's redundant or completely useless. While the Rebalance mod was designed for multiplayer, and it is a blast to play in multiplayer, perhaps the greatest feature is not even related to the mod itself. This segues into my final point, which is cross-compatibility. With the wonderful way that Elite has all of these mods configured, one of the wonderful things is that you can combine and mix and match all of these different mods for different experiences. For example, the Rebalance mod is by default compatible with Grinder and Grinder Enhanced, and Infernal difficulty if you have that installed. You can also install it in such a way that Infernal difficulty AI will transfer over to Grinder, which makes Grinder a much more challenging mode. You can also do different variations with and without Rebalance and with different campaign configurations and stuff like that. It really adds to the replayability of all of these things. If there's one word to describe this video and this entire series of mods, it would be that, replayability. As good of a game as MechAssault 1 is, you have to admit it can get a bit stale after a while. For those who feel like it's gotten a little bit stagnant after 20 plus years, this can be your opportunity to get a new experience within the game that you already love. With the latest release version 1.0.0, the download link takes you to a mod pack, which has everything installed in it except for Infernal difficulty. This makes things easier than ever to get working because everything is all in one place. But if you want to use the mods individually or mix and match like this, he still has the link to all the mods where you can download the mods individually and download them manually and do it that way, which is still not that hard. And that will be the wrap-up point for this video. If you want to check out anything you've seen here or download the mods for yourself, again, link to the McDonald's Discord, which is the community modding Discord, is in the description below. There you can get tech support and downloads and everything you need to get this stuff working. And there's a link to Elite's YouTube channel, where he shows off not only trailers for these mods you've seen already, but also the various other modding adventures that he's been undertaking, such as rediscovering the unused soccer ball mode in MechAssault 1, importing MechAssault 2 maps into MechAssault 1, playing as AI in MechAssault 2, various other things. There's a lot of interesting things over there. I would really suggest you check it out and give him your support. And by the way, he didn't ask me to make this video or anything like that. This is just a video that I wanted to make to showcase what we've accomplished in MechAssault modding so far and to promote his work for future mods and stuff like that. That'll be it for this video. Hopefully I'll see you later.